Ron and Ron, let's get a warm St. John's welcome.
Well, I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Rhonda Corliss. I'm the County Prevention Manager for Elevate. And one of the hats that I wear there is the chair of the Heroin Task Force for the county. And Ron is someone who drank some of the Kool-Aid at one of my presentations. So, he can introduce himself though.
Good. I have no mics.
Oh.
And yes, my wife and I unfortunately have a son who's an addict. And 2.5 years ago, I guess, as a presentation at Westwood High School, I happened to have been on the county board. I'm a one-term supervisor because when they downsized us, I ended up against another good incumbent. I lost by a few votes, but it is what it is. So.
More time for us.
More time for Elevate, yeah. So we went to this, they brought it up at the county board meeting. We went to this awareness program, and unfortunately, as my wife will tell you, when I decide to get involved in something, I don't just put my toes into it, I jump into it really hot and heavy, right? Yeah. And so I'm the official trailer tower that you saw sitting outside here. I'm the guy that tows it all around the state. We've done 5 parades so far this year. We have 3 more coming up for Christmas. And I tag team now with Ron, I don't know how many times doing presentations, because my wife and I feel very strongly that we need to educate all of us about this issue and things to look for. And unfortunately, it's no longer just a big city issue. We have problems. We're from Allenton. It's a heroin transfer point. I mean, daily. We had a gentleman that was transferring heroin every morning at 7:30 at Resurrection Parish parking lot. Every morning. And finally, a neighbor decided there must be something going on, because this car comes every day, and cars come and go while he's there driving up next to the driver's window. So, yeah, it's an issue, and we decided to get involved, and hopefully our presentation will enlighten you. Please, if you have any questions, ask us, raise your hand.
We're pretty laid back as far as presenting. Feel free, just raise your hand, ask it flat out. It doesn't matter, we'll be happy to answer any question. If there's any questions that you might have that you're a little uncomfortable asking in the crowd, catch me after, or write it on a piece of paper, give it to me, and we can figure it out, okay?
And just to show you the impact, yesterday we did a rock ride at Pick and Save South. I got there a little late. Unfortunately, I'm a pretty shy person, so I had to try and get people to come and buy brats. As you can tell, that doesn't work very well. But we got it in. We had, what, 2, we think, pretty strong contacts last night, Ron, of people that were having issues.
In fact, there was a young man at the Brat Fry last night who is now in Fond du Lac, checked in for treatment at about 6:30 this morning. So,
God has blessed us.
yeah. There's another nonprofit that works in Washington County called Stop Heroin Now, and all of their funds are set aside to provide treatment for people who can't afford it. And then we kind of split it up where ours is education and prevention, and they focus solely on getting people in treatment. And we kind of worked together yesterday, and I contacted someone, she contacted someone, and Mom was sitting there eating a brat in tears, but he's on his way to Fond du Lac at 6:30 this morning. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. This morning we are going to work on answering some of these questions. What is the scope of this problem? What are opioids? How are they abused, and how do they affect the human brain and body? What is being done, and what more can we do? Okay, this is...
I can be the official page turner.
Yeah, I'm not very good at this little number either. So, as you can see here on the slide, This is Washington County only. Okay, this is us. And we have a population of what, maybe 128,000, I think. Okay, so we started keeping the numbers in 2011. We had 9 overdoses that year. 2015, we had 16, and as of this weekend, I believe we're at 19 for 2016. It's a public health epidemic, and it's here in Washington County.
Sure. This shows you, this is an interesting part. When I got involved in this, I got educated as we all do. And one of the points I like to make, especially to those of us that are seasoned members of the society, I don't like the word senior, so I'm not call myself seasoned, is that for every 16-year-old addict, we have 66-year-old on the other side, making us come to 42 and 41 in the middle. That's the thing that was astounding to me. And as you can see from this chart, those of you, the light-colored line is prescription, the dark-colored is heroin. And so in the age groups in the 20s, they're together. The heroin's very high.
They begin with the prescription drugs and then move to the heroin because it's a cheaper drug.
So they switch over, and as you see, when you get up into the 50s, we really skyrocket. And some of that, as I've had the privilege of going to some conferences now and presentations through the DEA, comes, and the medical doctors will tell you, they're the problem. They prescribe painkillers to everybody. And the reason being, back in the early 90s, the Medicare, Medicaid people came out and said, Ron comes in, you need to find out what his pain level is and how you can make it better. He needs to walk out at a lower, as close to zero as possible.
It's about that satisfaction survey when we leave the clinic, bottom line.
And you can, right or wrong, we are in a medical field no longer of just individual doctors. We have conglomerates now, and they all look at bottom line, and they want to make sure everybody's happy and come back. I have friends of mine in the freighter program, they're telling me this year their challenge was they wanted 1.5 million new contacts. People that had never been to freighter before. So it's a lot of it is trying to get there. Now the docs are starting to realize we can't always get you to the zero pain level. You break an arm, it's going to hurt. You have a toothache, it's going to hurt. We can give you some other things to help lower that pain, but maybe we should not do the oxycodone and the Vicodin and all those other things. And all of us, I think, can relate to that personally. When you go in, what's one of the first questions the nurse asks you? What's your pain level? Second, the doc comes in, what's your pain level? So that's kind of how this slide really relates to that. Some of us, you may know, have been personally affected, as our family has. We have an addict. He's been to jail too many times since he's been 16 years old. He just came back, praise God, and he's still straight yet after going on almost 1.5 years now. He came back in September. A good portion of that year is because he was in the building that he couldn't get outside and get it. But it's worked, and he's got a job, and he's making money, and he's working 50 hours a week. And we're there to support him, and we're praying for the day that we can say, thank you very much. Now you can be in your own apartment. Mom and Pop like kind of this empty nest thing that we have for a while.
This is our video.
That is one thing young people like me often have. Our addiction to legally prescribed pain pills, like oxycodone or hydrocodone, is leading a lot of us straight to heroin. That's because prescription painkillers and heroin are both opioids. So when we can't get a refill, heroin is the only way to stop our pain or to get the same high. heroin's less expensive and easier to get. I can have black tar heroin delivered to my house faster than a pizza. Once we start, we have to keep using. Not for the high, but because we get sick from withdrawal if we try to stop. It's an epidemic. We're rich, poor, and middle class. We're from farms, cities, and suburbs. We're from families who have big hopes that we live healthy lives and not fall so far from such a high.
Sorry about that, I thought I had it turned off. My wife just pointed out one of the things that our son told us, even though he was incarcerated, and this came to a vivid point 5-6 weeks ago in Washington County, he could still get drugs inside the jail. They had a lady that came in that was on Huberlaw, and was definitely under the influence of something. So they did some testing, and she had almost overdosed. It was very high. Plus, she had a whole bunch with her that she was going to sell inside the prison, inside the jail. So, and we'll get into this, but the addiction part of opiates, unlike most other addictions, is much, much stronger than any other addictions. And it's very, very tough for any of us, once you're into it, it's affected you to break away from it.
What does an epidemic mean? The textbook definition is a widespread occurrence of a disease in a community at a particular time. That's us, it's Washington County.
This program is through the Drug Enforcement Administration. It's just the scary part. The Greater Milwaukee metropolitan area, which Washington County is part of, along with Waukesha County and the Scenic Kenosha Ozaki. We are one of the top 4 per 1,000 addicted people. One of the top 4 in this country. So this program that you're seeing here, DEA 360 strategy, is a pilot program that came out mid-year. And so we've been putting this out, but it's pretty nice there. It's when you look at that, you think about that, you go, oh my. And what she said, it can be farmers, it can be professors. The economical and sociological range of people in addiction is very, very wide.
I think one of the biggest goals of the Heroin Task Force is that we want the next decade to be different than this decade for our kids. We need to turn the corner on the opioid epidemic and start saving lives and reducing the pain and suffering so many feel. That journey starts with understanding exactly what heroin and other opioids are doing and how they work. Okay. What are opioids? They're chemicals. They're chemicals that are either produced from the opium poppy plant or created in a lab to have the same effects. That's when people talk about synthetic drugs, they're talking about drugs that are man-made in a lab. That's what a synthetic drug is, okay? But they have the same effects. And not all labs are legal ones. The picture on the top right shows a bust of an illicit fentanyl lab in Canada. Some opioids are medicines, some are medicines that are produced illicitly. Some are illegal drugs. They are all very similar at the molecular level, they're all very similar. But when you look at the legal versus the illegal drugs, they're not controlled in any way. So they might be laced with rat poison to make it go further, so they have more of the drug to sell. It might be laced with fentanyl, which is actually, another painkiller that actually can kill you.
What's the new one? The one that's for the elephants. Fentanyl?
Is it Sentinel?
Not fentanyl, no, the other one.
It's an elephant tranquilizer is what it's actually
Yeah, it's
used
an
for.
elephant tranquilizer. It is 10,000 times stronger than opiate, 10,000 times. And as Rhonda said, the dealers are mixing this in the kitchen tables. So they don't have a scale that goes, okay, I'm gonna put 1/10,000th of this with one part of opiates. They just mix it together. And that's why you're seeing Milwaukee has seen a real spike in fentanyl-related deaths because they're overcharging with what they're giving to people.
So how are opioids used and abused? To start, you have to understand that opioids affect the body and the brain, and they get to the brain through the bloodstream. Okay? Drugs can be swallowed. When a pill is swallowed, it takes a while to be broken down into the digestive system. When opioids are used as prescribed as medicine, they are often taken as pills according to a dosage and schedule. But pills can also be abused by taking them without a prescription or without paying attention to the prescription. Okay, so if you want to get a high from a pill faster, you're going to crush it up, you're going to snort it, you're going to swallow it in pieces, or you're going to melt it down and inject it. Okay, so that way it's going to get into your bloodstream faster. That's how it's commonly abused. Heroin can also, like I said, can be smoked.
If I may add also, you saw the poppies up in that you're looking at would have been your upper left. The opiate problem came about already prior to the Civil War. They developed this for painkillers. During the Civil War, the medical people were giving opioids, poppy, heroin, to people that were injured from battle in the war. And in the 1860s, they already noted that this could be an addiction problem. And it's just gotten further and further. Now the price of heroin is cheaper than buying your meds.
This goes back to similar to what Ron was talking about. Like we saw in the video, the heroin use among 18 to 25-year-olds doubled, and heroin use among those 26 and older tripled. Opioid pain relievers played a big part in the increase in use. It used to be that it was less common for a person to transition from marijuana or alcohol to drugs like heroin or meth or even cocaine. Opioid pain medications provided additional rungs in the ladder. You can see up there, okay? So for uppers, it progressed towards more serious drugs of abuse, meaning the way that the, I guess you would say that the brain interacts with drugs is you take a drug, it makes you feel good, you want to try it again, so you take the drug again. You take the drug again, you might get the same high, but you find out that you have to take more and more and more of the drug to get the same high. And then finally you get to the point where you have to take a drug just to feel normal. Okay? Yes, sir.
First, comment on top about a transition.
Uh-huh.
Can that be an economic thing where prescription drugs just got more expensive?
Definitely.
And then what happened is the non-prescription drugs have more or less baseline or stayed steady?
I don't know for sure if that's why some of the, I do know that the increase in the increase of use and the increase in of need for opioid medications is one of the reasons why prescriptions have gone up. But I don't know for sure, as far as economically, you know, I can definitely, I have a few hypotheses, I guess you would say, or some theories in the back of my head, but I don't know for sure.
The reason I asked is there's been quite a few comments already how inexpensive it is compared to just about everything else.
Yes. Yes.
And that's good. And that's how our son, the last time we all got involved, he hurt his neck at work. And so he went to the ER and they prescribed him some painkillers. And then he went to see the orthopedics and nobody wanted to do the neck surgery. It was too risky. So they gave him painkillers. And they gave him painkillers. They gave him painkillers. And then the insurance company said, we're not paying for these anymore. But the pain was still there. And now the brain kept saying to him, I'm assuming, this is kind of what we understand, I need to be at that level that I was when you were taking the pills. I need to be there. And if I get this right, because there's people here in the counseling world that are much smarter than me, but we have plurals and neurons in our brain. The plural are the thinking part, right? Who? Right? Yeah. And the neurons are the connectors. The opioid grabs onto those neurons and it basically makes our common sense thinking very distorted. And so all it wants to do is feel good. It wants you to feel good. And as what Anna said, it just keeps going. And it goes, well, the last time was good, but you could probably be a little better if you did this now. And so it just progresses. And that's the addiction part. It's very hard for those people. And Lou can talk about this a little bit if you don't mind. That's why we brought you here. The addiction part is an everyday battle. Everyday battle.
Basically, a final point to make about opioids is that they can be even more dangerous when mixed with other substances. Like if you swallow a pill with alcohol, for instance, or you mix it, you go to a farm party and there's a big fishbowl and it's full of loose pills and you take a handful, you swallow it to see, ooh, let's see what this can do. Okay, in that situation, when you're mixing substances, it's even more dangerous. Opioids can also become more dangerous when dealers mix heroin with other substances. Some traffickers will mix heroin with a range of substances from flour to chalk to rat poisoning. Okay. So we'll look there. Why do people abuse opioids? And this is back to similar, what I had said and what Ron reiterated. So we're going to flip through that. Maybe. Okay. Why do people start abusing opioids? Others may try opioids because it's the next drug on the table. Meaning, it's a progression, okay? You start with pills because you hurt your back, you hurt your neck, you had a toothache, you were given a prescription for Vicodin, and ooh, it really made you feel good. And you managed to get to work faster and you got a little more work done, and it just seemed to be the answer to all your problems that week. Well, then you get to the next week, you're out of the Vicodin. What do? You try to get another script, you go to another doctor, and the progression goes on. Finally, you're just out of luck because you can't get any more prescriptions, and you figure, how am I going to get this high and how am I going to get it cheap? Because now I've missed so much work, I've lost my job, I've ripped off my parents, I've stolen from them, I've sold property, sold personal property of theirs, I've gone into Taco Bell and tried to hold them up, and that didn't work so well, and I ended up in jail. Then I get out of jail and I still need this high. What do? That's when, your buddy or someone else might introduce you to heroin, okay? Because heroin is dirt cheap. For young users, pills have advantages over alcohol or marijuana. They are easier to hide and don't have the same signs to use and don't give a hangover. That's one thing we didn't talk about. You don't get a hangover from this. Yes?
Sounds to me that we need to concentrate on the drug companies. That's where it's all coming from.
Exactly. The trick is getting access to them.
Because all these people, if they can't afford the medication, that's what they're going to go for. And then all these people are sick. They're thrown into the system. They get no help. And it can all be stopped with the pharmaceutical companies.
I agree. One of the things that I do in my job that I have the luxury of doing is I work a lot in policy on the local level for local ordinances, on the state level, and then even federally. I helped with the mental health and parity bill about 5 or 6 years ago. So if you look at, unfortunately, with our government, and when you would look at policy, everything's usually about 5 to 8 years behind where it really needs to be. And once we get through this election and we figure out what some of the challenges will be, then we'll take on, ideally we want to address this with the drug companies. We've already been able to discuss it, have really candid conversations with the medical field here in Milwaukee. Ron and I have both met with Senator Johnson at a talking session with a couple, the gurus from Freighter and Aurora that make a lot of those decisions. We've had real candid conversations with him, and if you can imagine bringing Ron into one of those meetings, he tells you what you think, he thinks. So between the two of us, I think we get our point across.
Diplomatic.
Most of the time, diplomatically. So,
And that's right. And unfortunately, the one Ron Johnson's hearing that we had an opportunity, one of the panel members was the Milwaukee County medical examiner. The week before his son overdosed. I mean, he's very much aware of the problem and he's been very personally touched and even more dramatically now, probably ever. But yeah, and one of the other problems that's been, is you're right, the drug company, and the other is it's coming in from our borders unchecked. And that's an issue, and I don't want to get into that political discussion here, but that's not the place for it. But that's an issue. And we're having problems now. I've been in the firefighting business as a volunteer for 50 years. And I have friends of mine in northern Wisconsin are going to fires in cabins that are drug factories up north because it's very sparsely populated. They can hide it out in the woods and nobody really knows. And and that's why I hope you accept my apologies. I get pretty involved with this and I'm very, very driven and pretty passionate about it. So I get carried away, pull me back.
What you're talking about right now is that personal experience through my job, not related to what we do with housing, that in the complexes, structures that have been taken down from they were producing product there.
and it's absorbed into the walls and everything, and it has to be,
They have to really take down
yeah, demolition.
the entire area around it because of all the problems with it. And it took a while out to find out who it was with all the public rights we have nowadays. You just can't walk in most cases and do what you think you suspect earlier. But it goes on for months longer, causing more problems.
The scary thing to keep in mind in the United States is we are 4% of this world's population, but we consume 96% of all opioids from this world. So we've got some issues in this country with that, for sure. I want to be able to get through some more items. These, of course, are signs of use. And these, a lot of this information, things to look for, ways that we've seen over the years to be red flags, I guess you would say, in the counseling field or in prevention or treatment. All of that information is in the toolkits, which I think Ron's running out to grab me one. Okay. I think some of you probably already grabbed them, but we have these toolkits here, and a lot of the information on signs of use are in that.
We started with 6,000, correct?
Right.
That we printed, we're down to 180. And
In 1 year.
14 months, 15 months,
Yeah.
they've been out. So I feel very proud of myself because I was part of a very small part of this. There's a lot more people that have a lot more skills than they do the layout. I just have thoughts.
Oh, sorry, Ron. I just looked it on.
Tons of withdrawals, times where, you're sick, it feels like 1,000 times worse than the flu. You're sweating, you're trying to get through anything. I would walk into class, within these withdrawals, and I would go through this horrible week, never gonna do this again. And 2 days later, I'd already made it through the acute withdrawals, but I was using it again, knowing full well that I'm gonna have to go through that again at some point. I wish I knew really what these prescription pills were. These are all synthetic forms of heroin.
That's just an example of how the addictive properties are so strong. But he knows it stinks to overdose. I mean, he knows that it stinks to withdraw and how awful it is. Most people describe it to me as 10 times worse than the flu. You'd just rather be dead. It's awful. You're hanging over the toilet in the bathroom and it lasts for 3 to 4 days. It's awful. But obviously, it was more awful, I guess, to not have the drug. Okay. Let's see here. Opioid overdose. In this slide, most are from the effect of opioids on the heart and lungs. As they slow down and weaken, the entire body can be affected. Blood carries less oxygen, which affects everything from skin color to responsiveness. Erratic breathing leads to choking sounds, which are appropriately called death rattle. Okay? And I'm sure any paramedic can explain what it's like when someone's blue in the face, overdosing, and has that death rattle sound as they're gurgling for their last breath. And that's when the use of Narcan comes in, but we'll get into that a little bit.
Hang on just a second.
Okay.
Back then. Did I do this? There we go. Look at the bottom line.
Naloxone, Narcan is approved. That's from the DA too.
That's from the DA. Narcan is not a reversal drug. It postpones the effects of the opiates to get people in care. It is not. And since I've learned this, it drives me nuts because the media, every once in a while, I go, well, the police officers administered Narcan and it reversed the opiates. No, it just held it off for 10 to 15 minutes of the opiate attaching to the blood cells.
In the brain.
And the brain. It is not a reversal. And that's a misnomer. People think, well, I can get OD'd and my girlfriend can give me a shot of Narcan and I'll be back to normal again. Yeah, for maybe 10 minutes, and then you're going to be back over again, and maybe even worse.
That's why it needs to be administered 4 and 5 times, plus another time in the ambulance, plus another time in the ER. And if you can imagine the potential for brain damage and everything is that oxygen's not getting to your brain through this process also. Change that first slide.
He was full of energy.
Full of energy. Loved to wrestle, goof around.
Play, he was very lighthearted, fun child.
I didn't know what he was taking. It was 220. The insulin, the addiction is so strong. These kids don't know how to handle it. Ready to get in the chair? Fine, this you got us into, isn't it? We'd much rather have Aaron like this than dead. And a lot of parents don't have that luxury. We can kiss our son at night. What, like, huh? Dad shave you in the end? You like shaving? Oh, yes, you know. No.
The worst consequence is death. Other consequences are, like Aaron, trapped in your own body, alive, but still unable to communicate the way that you would hope that you could. You also lose all of your hopes and dreams and things that you wanted to accomplish in your life.
You can help.
Did you ever think anything bad would happen taking prescription pills, Aaron? One for yes, 2 for no? No.
Help save kids from prescription drug abuse. Secure your medications and talk with your kids. Visit drugfree.org.
Yeah, a lot of kids in their 20s, like my kids, have the attitude that, or a lot of their friends do too, have the attitude that if the buddy has Narcan, the girlfriend has Narcan, they're going to be fine. There's a poster out there that I love that we should add to this too. Is it says that, you know, one of the kids that are using, they seem to get hooked on the drug with a friend. They're usually using with a pal or a buddy, a girlfriend. But in all situations, when the paramedics show, or the mom or the grandma finds them, those friends are all gone. So 80% of the people that are found overdosing are alone, but they all insist the reason they're doing it is to be with their friends. Something to think about.
So genetics does have an important factor in this. It's not the only factor, but there is that you have a genetic history of individuals being addicts. The tendency, it could be so. Now, my wife is a prime example of not. She's a Native American. You have what, 8 siblings? 7. That's it. And we know that for sure 5 of those are addicts or have been. At least 5. Her parents were addicts, so I give her a lot of credit that she broke away from that, and she doesn't have anything alcohol. We did when we were younger, and then when we had our first kid, she didn't like changing diapers with a hangover. That was the end of and drinking anything with alcohol in it again. And she's really curbed my appetite for it also. I can have a 6-pack of beer and it could be there 3 months later. I've changed my ways of doing it. I don't need that crap. But those of us that are in that age bracket, think about it when we were younger, and especially Rhonda loves this because she's originally from Kansas through Alaska came to Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, we met people by going to bars or the places where the young kids hung out, where you could have beer and dance. And I mean, that's.
And I grew up in the Bible Belt. A little different.
Yeah. So, it's a little bit different, but the family history has some of it is itself medicated, because they want to feel good and they tried it. We've kind of talked about that. Others just feel hopeless. They feel there's no good reason for them to do anything else but to use.
Okay. I believe Ron referred to this at one point, but this is, of course, the state of Wisconsin. If you look on this screen, look at Washington County. We're the darkest red possible. Okay, what does that mean? That means we are the 4th. Let's see here. Out of all the counties in Wisconsin, there's 72 counties. We are the 4th largest county with cases of marijuana, of heroin or opiate drug cases pending, or I'm not even saying that right.
One of the interesting, if you look at northeastern Wisconsin, way up there, there's a real dark area that I think that's Marinette, Menominee County. No, not Step in that area, Marquette County. No, I didn't. It's anyhow, it's by Marinette, Wisconsin. That area, including into Michigan, is very high per 1,000 addict area. The reason being is that's where there's a VA hospital up at Iron Mountain. And my wife and I met a coroner from Oneida and County, told us that this was a couple years ago. They had an 84-year-old gentleman that they found dead in his house. He had COPD. And next to him, on the table next to his bed, was a pill he had gotten 3 days before with 177 Vicodin. He's 84 years old. And he had a very high level of opiates in his blood. That wasn't what killed him, but it probably was a contributing factor because it messed up his breathing and respiration and pulse rate. But again, the medical field, it's them out. And we've heard that in the last year about how the VA is really into that. We need to address that in a better way than we are. Hopefully, we're working towards that solution.
And based on where we're located in Washington County, we are the 4th largest county with the highest drug overdoses and drug cases pending per capita in the state. So when you look at from Chicago to Milwaukee and on their way on Highway 45 up to Green Bay, we're right on the stop list. I have a son at UWWC and he makes jokes about how everyone in his class refers to Highway 45 as Heroin Highway. Well, it's just Heroin Highway. And it's right next to the campus. It's quicker than getting a pizza. What can we do about this? There's medication-assisted treatments that is offered in this county and available to people. There's something called Suboxone. There's another drug called Vivitrol. This is available here in Washington County as well. Let's see here. much more coverage and awareness can be expanded. You learn more about medication-assisted treatment and share this information by using an ebook that the partnership offers. One of the things that this slide was actually is to remind me to talk about is in this county we do have effective treatment available to us. Unfortunately, if you don't have insurance, you don't have access to it as easily in this county. Now that we don't necessarily have the services available to us from Genesis, we now have a place called Alaris, who does take Title 19 clients, takes people with Badger Care. So we are slowly bringing those services back to them because they are working on getting a doctor on board who can help with Vivitrol and Suboxone and some of the medication-assisted treatments. The Good Samaritan Law. This is a law that just went into effect about a year ago with the HOPE legislation. If you heard any of that going on with Senator Nygren, his daughter struggles with heroin addiction as well. He is a senator who kind of spearheads a lot of these laws, and so they're called the HOPE legislation. You can only heroin, opiate. I know HOPE stands for something like that. Okay. What the Good Samaritan Law basically is if you come across someone overdosing, or you are, say, you were a person at a party who was using also, and your friend overdoses and is ill, you can call for help, and you will not be prosecuted for calling for help. Is basically what that means, regardless of what you've consumed yourself.
What about the second statement again? Dr. Narcan, but how are you pronounce that second one?
Naloxone?
Yeah,
Counteracts opioids and can restore breathing and heart rate.
Narcan's another name for it.
Yeah, Narcan is the brand name for naloxone. So
It
it's
does
the same
that for a period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it has very limitations and people won't realize that problem.
And that's one of the battles that I have kind of taken on is to educate people that if you administer Narcan, you need to get that individual the medical care, and you got to do it quick.
How are they getting that product, those two products that are so readily available to them that they can use it?
About a year ago also, actually I believe it was April of 2016, in fact, it's 2016, naloxone or Narcan became available without a prescription. So that means Walgreens theoretically can sell it over the counter and anyone can purchase it. The Walgreens in Washington County currently does not do that, but Pick and Save will be doing that very soon. We'll have that. And then there's the AIDS Resource Center out of Milwaukee that comes up at least twice a month, and that is where I usually get my, I want to say my connection, but I guess you would say that would be my connection. There's been one time when I've needed to administer Narcan, and I just returned the needle to the AIDS Resource Center and they gave me a new supply. Once you're trained, legally you can carry it and administer it. Legally, you can now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What is the recommendation for the other drug, and how do we become licensed or trained to administer Narcan?
I don't know of another drug. Naloxone and Narcan are the same thing.
Isn't there's another one that's
Suboxone?
Yeah, is there another name for that that's more familiar to people?
I don't believe so.
And
There's
that's
another
a
drug called Vivitrol, but Vivitrol is an injected drug that can work for up to 30 days in your system. The problem that we're seeing now is people are injected with Vivitrol or given Suboxone as a prescription as part of their treatment, and then they decide to go use on top of that drug. Okay, because once they leave treatment, they are put back in their home community where all their buddies and friends and dealers live, or their girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. But those same triggers or those same connections, once they leave treatment, they go right back to that because that's where they live.
And Lou, you can step up here anytime. I think we're starting to lead towards your part, so you can come up and stand by me. Help me. Stay straight. One of the problems that I see, oh, I'm sorry, man, wait.
I'm a little confused. If you can take this and it lasts only 10 minutes to reverse the effects or the overdose, wouldn't a high school kid think it's okay to get this if it's available at Pick and Save and continue doing what they're doing because they think they'll be okay and
Yes.
it's on the counter? Isn't
Yeah.
that encouraging?
That is one
premise?
side of the story, and that's why the education has to go with it. Okay, if you were to go to Pick and Save to get the Narcan, you would have to go. You'd have to watch a video, and you would have to read this packet and do all these things.
Only
There's
once
that
or
side of
every
that.
time?
But if we take away the Narcan and it's not available, people will die. So it's a double-edged sword. And that is why it's so critical that we have prevention and we have education and opportunities like this to even talk about it. Because if we take away the Narcan, people will die. There's nothing. There would be nothing. There would be no in between.
And if I can add into that, I've had an individual tell me, well, it's an enabling drug. Yeah, it is. And I had an addict who's in recovery tell me that. He had 4 doses at different times. The 4th dose is when he realized he needed to change his life. So he said, it enabled me to finally make the decision to get sober. So, as Rhonda said, it is a double-edged sword, and you're exactly right. That's one of my personal goals is to educate as many people.
And when I broke the leg, if I didn't have crutches, I probably wouldn't have gotten healed. I wouldn't have gotten to the next stage to get to the knee surgery that I needed eventually. I mean, there's a lot of different ways of looking at it.
So this reversal term means to get taken out. That is one of my goals, is that reversal. Right there.
Yeah, the other drug that we use a lot is, I think Suboxone is a great drug. I think it's one of the better drugs that has come out on our market for a while. But I think long-term use, people get into trouble with it. I really believe psychologically they can become addicted to it. And I think I like what you said. The 4 times that he went on it, he began to realize that he needed some help. And there is help out there. We should have more of it out there, but there is help out there. And I think these 2 drugs were prescribed primarily because of, in the past, methadone was brought into the market years ago. And methadone is a synthetic form of heroin. And in my experience, working in a primary in- and outpatient treatment, methadone, our physicians would not even admit into our facilities if somebody was on methadone for a long period of time because of the addiction factor. They had to titrate off. So I think short-term use of Suboxone is a real adjunct to getting sober, but I also really believe in my heart of hearts that people really need the assistance of treatment. They need the education. They need to learn about the disease factor. They really need to learn about that. And can I just go on? People that are addicted.
Hang on just a second. Introduce her so they know where your lady is coming from.
This is a coworker of mine. Her name is Lou Herman. She has been working in prevention, intervention, and treatment for over 35 years. So she knows her stuff. That's why we brought her along.
You have been sober for 30 years?
I will be sober 39 years on November 19th. This will be my 40th clean holiday. I took my last drug November 17th, November 19th, 1977.
So she's coming from experience.
Yes.
Does the urge of the drug ever go away?
I believe it does. I believe it does. And I really believe, and I'm going to talk about the 12 steps of AA because I really, truly believe that's what saved my life. Counseling got to help me know, love, and accept myself. When it came to my sobriety, it was people in groups and 12-step groups that assisted me and helped me to get to where I was and where I am today. So does that kind of... The other thing I want to just emphasize, the brain of an addict or an alcoholic is a little different than a so-called social drinker. From the time I took my first drink, I never drank socially. I never drank socially. If I was to use any kind of medication, I could never use it socially. I underwent major surgery years ago, and one of the things my physician told the nurses, she will tell you if she needs pain medication, because once you're addicted to any mood-altering chemical, you automatically become addicted to all the other drugs out there. And I'm talking benzos, I'm talking opiates, I'm talking a lot of the prescription, the sleep medications, that type of thing. So, any other questions?
How do you certify that you to administer Narcan?
They, I'm trying to think.
They have
of-
classes.
They have numerous, I'm trying to think of when the next class is in
Yeah.
Washington County. They're at the Democratic office on Main Street is where they usually take place, the classes, and they're about every 3 months. And if you take my business card out on the front table there, send me an email and then I will send you the next date of the training. But they offer, and the training, you know, it's a video, it's very extensive, and they talk about the pros and cons a lot too in that training. It's done by the AIDS Resource Center, their prevention staff, and they're very good at it.
A lot of my families have gone through the training and learned how to administer it, and they keep it in their home in case one of their family members goes back to using. So, but I know there are classes.
Let's talk about some actions that we can do as a community or personally, too. First of all, protect your family. Get serious about doing it. If you are a parent or a grandparent or anyone who cares about a young person, encourage you to get serious about substance abuse. Talk to them and talk to them again and again and again. And you know, my kids think I'm a broken record and I still, to this day, I leave marijuana brochures and information about marijuana on the kitchen table because you know they're all in their 20s. So eating together for a meal usually happens on Sunday afternoons when they decide to drop by and do their laundry. But to this day, there is still some brochure sitting on my kitchen table for them to see. And they're just roll their eyes and give me the look, but I'm just like, smile and say, I love you. So keep pushing them, keep telling them, keep educating them. Okay, let's see here. This is just a slide to keep in mind. I have never met a heroin addict who hasn't tried marijuana or who hasn't tried alcohol. You don't just wake up and shoot yourself up with heroin. You've used the other drugs. And so when we get into the argument about legalizing marijuana, true, it may be harmful for a lot of people, but so is alcohol, and look where we're at with that. So is legalizing another drug and the perceptions to our kids and what they're learning from that, is that really the best route to take? Once again, talk.
Can I just, I run a family group. I wanted to retire about 8 years ago. And one of the things that my boss had asked me to do is she said, could you just come back 1 day a week? But prior to that, one of the things I started to look at is the outbreak of the heroin epidemic, not only in Washington County, I live in Ozaukee County. And I know people had blinders on for many years about that. There's none in this county, just like there wasn't alcoholics in Ozaukee County years ago until we really educated the boards about the disease of alcoholism. So I started a family group. And to the present day, I've worked with over 93 families in our county alone that have kids, that have husbands, that have parents that are addicted. The majority of my group consists of parents whose kids are addicted to heroin. My goal is to reach out into Washington County and to begin to start some family groups in the churches either in West Bend or Slinger or Hartford or Germantown, Kewaskum, anywhere I can find some space to do a family group here so that people wouldn't have to come to Jackson. In the experience of working with families, a lot of parents will think there's something wrong I did. What didn't I provide for this child? What didn't I give my spouse if he or she happened to be the addict or alcoholic? And one of the things I'm going to say to you, if you have a child, a spouse, a sister, an aunt, a mother, a father, if they have the disease of addiction, it is not your fault. There is nothing that you could have done differently to parent the child, to make that child make different choices in their life. When somebody is addicted, it has to do with their brain functions a little different. And back to what I said earlier, I never was a social drinker. From the very first time I took my drink, I could never use a drug socially. Tried that, but didn't like it and always reverted back to alcohol. So again, when my mother was in her early 90s, she started to cry one day and she said to me, "Lucine, I don't know what I did that you got the disease of alcoholism." And I looked at her and I says, "Mama, it was nothing you did. But when I was in school, I did my genealogy. And one of the things I discovered, both on my mother's side and my father's side, there was a lot of alcoholism in my family. I had uncles that died of it. I had a cousin that died of it. And believe it or not, I think I had a Notre Dame aunt that was addicted to alcohol." And I'm just going to spend a couple of seconds. One of the things we found out when she passed away was I'd bring her a bottle of brandy, my sisters would bring her a bottle of brandy, and it was always the same thing. And God love you, Sister Felicitas. You were a great teacher. She always said she needed it for medicinal purposes. Her reason for drinking was because she couldn't sleep at night. She couldn't sleep at night. So a little bit of brandy always helped her. And I don't want to go off on this because I know a lack of time in that. But still, if you know somebody, and if they're related to you, do not blame yourself for their disease. It's a disease no different than diabetes or heart disease, cancer. Cancer runs rapid in my family. A lot of my siblings died from cancer. I had my dad's alcoholism. Some of them got my father's colon cancer. So I'm going to just pass it back.
Well, I know we're running short of time. So if we want to wrap up, we have about 8 more slides, but they're not that important. I hope we got the message out to you. I hope you can appreciate my passion for this and Ron's and Lou's passion for this. But a couple things. One is, if you want to get involved, contact Ron. I don't have business cards, so I'm just a volunteer that drives the trailer. But you're welcome to join us in helping in any way, We have a candlelight vigils this year. Last year we did 1. This year we're going to do 2. The one here in Westman will be on December 15th, which is a Thursday night, correct? At Riverside Park, so it's at 6:30. It's a really meaningful presentation, and we're doing the second one this year at the Richfield Fire Station number 1, which is on Highway 175. If you want to walk with us in the parade routes, you're welcome to do that. We're doing Kewaskum, Hartford next Saturday, Kewaskum, or then the Westman one, and then the Kewaskum one.
And what we do is we walk along the trailer, handing out information on opioids, along with microwave popcorn that says, quit popping pills, pop popcorn, to get their attention, and then we give them a little information.
And if you're involved in any associations or organizations, fraternal groups, we need to print more of these. So we are on a zero-based budget, so we do everything off of donations. This is, and you're welcome to take some. These are great booklets with lots of resources. I guess that's it.
And if anybody's interested in my family group, I meet on Wednesday nights. I don't charge anything. We meet from 5 to 7. I will leave some of my business cards if you need to call me or talk to me. Again, everything is confidential. Please feel free to utilize me. And if you have any connections in this parish, me or this congregation, maybe they would like to give me a room that I could start a family group right here at St. John's. So, thank you.
Let's thank everyone for presenting. Ron and Robin, thank you very much. It is indeed a problem in our county. We can't ignore it. And if you need some resources, please don't hesitate to contact Ron. I'm sure she can point you in the right direction. Let's close with prayer. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we live in a broken world. And today, we've come face to face with part of our brokenness. Lord, we entrust this epidemic to you. And we pray you would work through us to make a difference in the lives of people in which you place us. So go with us, Lord, support and encourage us along the journey. We ask this in your name.